Hi, it's Lauren. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the song The Unlovable. This is the sixth song, or the first song of the second section, which is the white section. So the first section was the black section, and it was a lot about kind of death and rebirth, that kind of theme. It's my picture that's like all shadowy and dark. And so this section in the background of the music videos, you'll see it's the same picture, but it actually is in color. Because this is the white section, and this section is all about kind of like feeling alive. And the first step on that journey is forgiveness of the past, of the dark parts of yourself you don't like, and that's really what this song is about. It's called The Unlovable because it's about loving those past versions of yourself that are really hard to love or you feel that don't deserve love. So let's get into the lyrics. All right, the first section says, "I never amounted to who I could be." And that really just speaks to, I always felt like I had a lot of pressure because I did well in school and dance, and I could go far, be a doctor, all the things that everyone wants in society. So, and I always felt that who I wasn't enough. I only had value if I reached the level of success of my potential. So then the whole time I was reaching towards a goal, I didn't have value until I completed the goal. And that's the next line, which is, "Not enough who I was, just who I could be." And that philosophy will, if you feel like you don't have value and worthless, you will be motivated to work, but at what cost? There are better ways to motivate yourself than that self-hatred narrative. But I thought I needed all that negativity to motivate myself because I've been told all my life, which is another big problem in society, that if you don't push yourself with all this shame and hate, then you'll be lazy. But I've come to really believe that the only reason people are lazy and don't want to do things is because they're burned out from being forced to do things that they don't want to do all the time. So then when they have free time, they don't want to do anything. So, yeah, cool. All right, so next section, I call it the pre-chorus because I have the verse, the pre-chorus, and the chorus. And people have told me a pre-chorus isn't a thing, but I'm making it a thing, so this is the pre-chorus. So it goes, "You say I have time to make it right, but you don't know how long I'll be alive." It's just sort of the truth of life. They always say if there's something that you don't like about your life, yourself, you can change it. You have your whole life ahead of you. And frankly, you don't know that. People die all the time. And I came to the realization that I was really sick with all the stuff just getting sicker. Nothing I was doing was working. And I came to the realization that there's a good chance I might die never having completed everything I wanted to complete in this life. Because nothing was working. And I realized that I might die not finishing everything I wanted to finish with this feeling of dissatisfaction. And I don't have full control over that. Life happens. So, and this was a thing, I'm kind of going through a spiritual thing with this. And spiritually, I've come to the conclusion that heaven and hell aren't places that someone sends you. They're really what your soul creates itself by what it thinks it deserves, like a frequency match kind of thing. So if you have a lot of self-hatred, you'll go to hell, but not because you deserve it or someone's sending you there. It's because of your own thoughts. Same with heaven. And so I think with suicide, people say people commit suicide and go to hell. I'm like, well, it's partially true, but it's because people who commit suicide are generally in a horrible emotional state, and that emotional state on the other side isn't resolved. In fact, it's worse because now they can't go and fix whatever it was. And so the pain's actually more. And so I wasn't sure how long I was going to make it. My body was really just breaking down at that point. And I'm like, okay, I might die never having completed the things I wanted to complete in this life. And how how can I be okay with that so I don't create a hell for myself on the other side for all of time, because it's even harder to escape there. And I wasn't planning on killing myself. It was just the disorder and how sick I was. And even if I lived like a long life, I was so sick and nothing was helping that I'm like, I still may not achieve all of my goals. So how can I live with that so that I don't get trapped in my own thoughts and suffering on the other side? So yeah, I just recorded this today, and this is fairly emotional. It was the first song that I felt some pretty intense emotions on. Like, I feel emotions, but so far everything's been really hard. This one I was starting to feel like an actual flow of emotion, so that's cool. Because sometimes as an artist, like, it's recording day and maybe you're not in the mood, you're anxious, you're distracted, and sometimes you don't have that original emotion that you had when you wrote it, and sometimes you can't plan to have the emotion. But this one I felt for about half the time, a little bit more maybe. All right, and this next part is when I really felt the emotions. These emotions, unexpressed, are eating me alive. I feel it in my body. If I don't heal, then I'm gonna die. And I've talked about suppressed emotions before, and this is definitely about that. And the more you suppress them, the worse they get. And eventually they cause physical problems in the body, in the mind, because the mind and body and emotions are all connected. And at that point, some of the stuff is hard to talk about. I'm laughing, but I'm like, I guess that's my coping skill. But at that point, so a little story time. At that point, there would be times for hours I would just be full on screaming, saying I want to die, saying it's the worst pain that I've ever experienced. And like I've described, it's not like the physical pain, but it's this chemical pain. Like, for example, when I was in the hospital, the orderly person, they're like, oh, you're getting off fentanyl, right? And I'm like, no, these are just my symptoms coming back after I'm off some of the Seroquel. So, and that was happening, and then I was having fights with my parents that lead to like screaming. I mean, there was actually a wellness check that came to my house because of the screaming, and that was like a regular event. And so that's a good example of, there's a lot of repressed emotions, and the more you repress them, the more the body breaks down, the more intense they get, and actually the less control you have. And it was really at a horrible breaking point. It was like having a level 10 panic attack for like the better part of 12 hours sometimes. And when the body's under that amount of stress, you feel like you could feel that your body can't take much more of it. And like I've described, like, there's mental stuff, but then it combines with the physical and the way the system is. People like to categorize, and anything that's like overlaps, there really isn't enough research on. But I think the emotions were definitely like causing a lot of these symptoms. And like, it is panic attacks, but it was more like the whole body is so dysregulated, it's going into shock and having trouble holding up its basic functions. Like, I've been in an ER handcuffed, I've been in an ER like couldn't put together a sentence for 12 hours, so it gets really bad. So yeah, so it was good that I was able to sing and feel at least some of those emotions coming out. Now the chorus. Can I love the life I feel was unacceptable? Can I love who I was? Can I love the unlovable? So, can I love the life I feel was unacceptable? Meaning the life where I didn't achieve all my dreams and goals and help the world like my soul intended to when it incarnated here. Whatever you want to call it, just failure. Can I still love myself when I failed? Can I love who I was I was, confused, people pleaser, kind of a failure, ill. I didn't feel like I was happy. I didn't feel like I was contributing enough to society or the world. And can I love that person? Can I love the unlovable? And I think it's just a lot of self-criticism, because I always thought I had to push myself really hard. Oh gosh, there are noises outside. It's driving me a little crazy. But I definitely got triggered there for a second with the noises. But we're just gonna keep going. I definitely was one of those people that always thought love and respect was something you earn by being successful. So I felt that if I gave myself love before I reached my goals, then I would fail. But then because I had so little love for myself, so critical, I would burn out and then I'd fail. But then my brain said I have to love myself less, but I was loving myself so little that I couldn't function. And you could see how that trap really can be quite torturous. So the challenge is, can I love that messy, dark part side of myself, that shadow self that I wish I never was? All right, next is the bridge. It's a pretty long bridge, but we'll do the first part. I'm afraid to die like this. I have failed in my purpose. So that's just speaking to, I'm really afraid to die without completing everything that I wanted to here, for the regret I'll feel after I die on the other side. And I'm afraid that I'll create a hell for myself that I won't be able to escape, because I'm already so hurt, and I can only imagine having that finalized, how much that would hurt. And I didn't think I had the strength to pull myself out of it, so I'm afraid to die without being emotionally centered and happy and fulfilled. And I wasn't really making much progress towards it either at the time. I'm afraid to live like this, and then I can't stand feeling, and then I go into the feelings. All right, so the neighbor kids are playing outside, and I can hear it a little bit, but this is where my OCD comes in. I'm getting really fixated on it, and I'm not sure if it's a real sound I need to stop or if it's OCD. So when you have OCD and you're not sure, you have to treat it like OCD. And I'll watch it and see. But so I am triggered, but I'm going to treat this trigger like OCD. So let's go into the next part. So much fear. Definitely fear. Definitely fear, anxiety. I've always been a perfectionist. Always terrified of failing, terrified of being called lazy. I'm just afraid of not being enough. Of this always feeling that what I do isn't enough, who I am isn't enough. And then so much hate. It's definitely self-hatred, and it's become such a habit because like I said, I thought I needed to hate who I was now in order to become a better person, because if I love myself now, what motivation would I have to be a better person? I would just coast. But I've come to believe that love, first of all, you're not going anywhere. It's all about the journey. Once you finish a goal, it's done. The experience is over. And if you didn't enjoy the process, then what's the point? Because I was such a future-oriented person. Hate myself now, love myself later. The future is perfect, now is miserable, but it'll be worth it for perfection later. But I feel strongly now that positive emotions like love, excitement, that they're like fuel, like gas in a car. And the negative emotions are fuel too, but they'll burn out the engine, where the positive emotions won't. And so if you are actually fueled by love, which is the most powerful thing in the universe. It's a fairy tale thing, but it really is. To find the name. What is his name? Give me a second. All right, so the name I was thinking about was Joe Dispenza. And this is about love. That's why I'm bringing it up. But he talks about brain and heart coherence, when the brain and the heart are beating together. And it creates this really heightened emotional state. of just, one way to describe it's euphoric, but it's just like this love for everything. And I would call the emotion love that happens with that state. And it synchronizes the body, it heals the body. People are just meditating, they feel great. And Joe Dispenza is great because he takes the kind of like spiritual stuff and then the science and mixes them together. So he's like really into, like quantum mechanics and like accessing the field to manifest things, but he does it in a scientific way. And so there's a reason why people say like love is from the heart. It's because when everything's coherent, which love is unity, then it's amazing, and that's what life is about. I mean, maybe. What do I know? I mean, I have not found the answers. It's like I'm all like talking like I know what I'm talking about. Like I don't. I mean, I feel like life, people are experts on things, but life is frankly like the blind leading the blind. No one knows what life is, why we're here, anything, but people pretend they know what they're talking about, and that is exactly what I'm doing here. All right, next part is so much anger, so much waste. So anger, yeah, I have always been a very easily frustrated person. Again, like the self-hatred, it was like a way to motivate me. Like if I make a mistake, or if I can't reach a goal and I'm like, okay, it's okay to have a setback. It's like, what motivation will I have to reach my goal if I'm okay with a setback or okay with not reaching the goal as fast as I want? And so it's that same narrative, but I've always been a very easily frustrated person. And then so much waste. So waste, feeling like I wasted my talent, my potential, the physical resources that I've been gifted with in this life, and that I wasted them. And I have this is a weird thing, but it's, if you think of like my life and my body, my experience as a slot, it's like, oh, someone else could have lived it better. So it's almost like a soul level of like, I don't deserve the good things I have in life. And feeling like I wasted my chance and someone else should have had it to do it better. I also just don't like waste in general. I don't like wasting time. I don't really like wasting resources. So it is also a value of mine too. All right, next little paragraph is so much pain unresolved, so much damage I can't solve. So yeah, basically the so much pain unresolved is all the loose ends in my life, all the emotional stuff I didn't process. That's just unresolved, and now it's gotten so much into my body that my body is not functioning. My brain is not functioning. I'm just in a downward spiral that I can't escape. And then so much damage I can't solve. So that was at a period of my life where I really couldn't, and I'm not someone who like says that easily or gives up easily, but just nothing I was doing at the time was helping. And I have gotten a little bit better, and I'm still not exactly clear on why. I think the only reason I got better was ways to like train my nervous system to adapt a little bit better. So like the exercise helped. So training it to adapt to things like this, which are like very, new, hard, anxiety provoking, and getting the brain used to it. But I think what was happening is I was in such bad shape and trying to force my brain to adapt, but I just couldn't. So I think any kind of healing, like strengthening a muscle, like you could do bicep curls and you push your arm hard, but if you push it so hard that it the muscle tears, and then you try again, you're getting weaker, and that's what was happening. And so I think breaking things down into smaller things, being honest with what I could handle and what my system could adapt to and what it couldn't. And in that way, I think a really good example is, I like roller skate, so I'll give you an example. Let's say, and no one can do this on roller skates, but let's say I want to try like a quad axle. No one can do that on roller skates, but like just say. And for 10 years, every day, for an hour, I try to get a quad axle. But I take no steps to get there. I just go for. What's going to happen after 10 years? Do you know how like damaged I'll be? And I would have made no progress. Whereas if I start with like some footwork, start with a half turn, then a full turn, and then work up. Maybe 10 years, I'd get it. Probably not a quad axel because the skates are so heavy, but you get my point. You can work really hard, but if you're not working smart, you're not going to make any progress, and it's not a character flaw. It's just being honest with, is my body adapting to this stress or is it not? And you do have to be uncomfortable for your body to react, but if you're continually failing, then the tactic needs to change. And I know that's probably obvious for most people, but for me, changing a tactic was failing. To make it like easier, more manageable was also equivalent to failure. So I was really reluctant to do that, but when I look back on all the evidence of my life, I really should have made a lot more adjustments. But at the time I really felt like I could not solve my problems at all. Nothing I was doing was working. It's like if I were to try a quad axel every day, but after 10 years I still have made pretty much no progress. That's how it was. So that's why I say so much damage I can't solve. So after so much damage I can't solve, it goes back to sections we already talked about. So it goes right back to, you say I have time to make it right, but you don't know how long I'll be alive. So that's just making peace that no one knows when they're going to die. So you think you have all this time to like resolve all this stuff, talk to family members, and you don't. Got to do it now. We always, we think we have time to put off happiness, and we don't know that we do. Sometimes we take it for granted, like, oh, we have a 401k. Oh, you don't know you're going to make it to retirement. So I'm not a big fan of 401ks and all this retirement planning for 30 years because you don't even know if you're going to be alive in 30 years. A lot of things happen. You don't know. And so you got to make peace with whatever problems you have now and be okay with whatever happens. And then it goes to, these emotions, unexpressed, are eating me alive. I feel it in my body. If I don't heal, then I'm going to die. Yeah. It was, the best way to describe it was extremely severe, like chemical imbalances. Physical, mental, all of them at the same time. And it's probably a lot of I use those negative emotions to fuel myself. And then they became such a habit, and then they overwhelmed and almost destroyed me. So, and then back to the chorus. Can I love? The life I feel was unacceptable. Can I love who I was? Can I love the unlovable? And see, when I say that, it sounds like I've done these horrible things in my life that are like unforgivable, and I really haven't. It's just I'm that self-critical that it feels like I have. And that's why our perception is everything, because I don't know if there really is any objective truth. It's all perception. And I can look back on my life and think it was a failure, or look back and think it was a success. It's really all my perspective. But I just think the main thing in this song is making peace with your past, making peace with the unpredictability of life, and not waiting to be happy or do those things you want to do, because there's no guarantee on anything. And yeah, that's the song. If you made it this far, that's great. I know it's a little bit different, like lighting. I'm doing it at night. Today, I don't really have a schedule. I have a release schedule, but when I try to plan things, it makes me more nervous. I don't know. We could get into my brain all day, but thanks for listening. That's a song. Talk to you later. Bye.